Cool Fab Mini Bike Championships, live from Red Lodge.
Hello and good morning. Welcome to Cool Fab Racing, round 5 of the 2017 British Mini Bikes Championship from Cool Fab Racing is here, and we are live online on our Facebook stream and on the website coolfabracing.com. Hello, good morning. My name is Lester. Our commentator for today is Alex Raby. He is here.
Good morning.
Hello, Alex. Well, yes, another fantastic, absolutely fantastic, I should say, day of racing coming up. We begin this morning with the AC40 rookies and Mini GP 50s. Straight after that, senior mini motos follow them. Then it's the junior LC40 category. Pit Bike 140 and moto team race coming up around 11:45 or thereabouts. Mini GP 70s second race of the weekend coming up at about midday, all times provisional. Then it's Pit Bike Open, which I'm told Bradley Ray will be competing in, followed by the AC40 Pros and another category that Brad Ray said he will be competing in today as a one-off, potentially. The Mini F1 sidecars. Whether it happens or not, we'll have to wait and see. It might just be the case of we'll have to watch and literally count who's on track, and if Brad Ray's on a sidecar, then he's racing, I guess. But that should be something to see.
That's a great assessment, Lester. I like it.
Thank you very much. All right, so we are shaping up to get ready for the first race of the morning and the second race of the weekend, which is the AC40 rookies race. They will be heading out on track very, very shortly. Messages of support once again today. We are covering Facebook Live and all over our website. So if you have any messages for your riders, for your team, for people who are not here at the track, or if you're at home and people are at the track, then get all the messages in to us. It's at Cool Fab Racing on Twitter and Facebook as well. And don't forget to share the post, because the more publicity we can give for all the riders, the better for everybody, I suppose. Alex, your particular races that you're looking forward to? There were some cracking races, a couple yesterday, more than a couple in fact. Which ones are you got your eye on today?
Well, to be perfectly honest, it would probably be slightly unfair to pick out a specific race because, as you said, the vast majority of the races were highly entertaining yesterday. Looking forward to seeing specific riders, actually, as much as anything. Ross Maguire had a brilliant day yesterday, taking the race victory in the junior LC40 category and coming from 8th to 2nd in the AC40 Pro, so he's one to watch, obviously. Some of the usual names, Casey O'Gorman, see if Corey Stainer can pick it up after a challenging day yesterday, see if Mick Williams in the Mini F1 sidecars can maintain that unbeaten run through 2017. Bailey Stewart Campbell, another of the names in his battle with Evan Belford in the Mini GP 50 category, looking forward to seeing that as well. And Will Howarth, who seems to take part in almost every category, see how he gets on here during the course of the remaining 2 rounds of races at round 5 of this 2017 season. So yes, Lester, plenty to look forward to today.
Indeed, yes. Viewers on the Facebook live stream can see the grid being chalked up with the correct positions at the moment in anticipation of the bikes coming out, which will be in just a couple of moments' time, in a few moments. And yeah, will we be expecting any rain today, Alex? I've not seen a weather forecast just yet, but well, yesterday we did have a sudden downpour.
Although you described me as world famous yesterday, I'm not world famous for weather forecasts. Yesterday morning I was brave enough to say that it was looking quite clear, and then after that we had a downpour that lasted for at least 15 minutes, so the curse of the commentator brought on the rain yesterday. And actually, to be fair,
come up here to tell you not to say that again.
So joined by Crispin now. So yesterday, well, to be fair, I was just talking about the rain, and the riders coped admirably with it, so full credit to them for that, and the times very quickly got back down to normal race pace.
Yeah, absolutely, and I also feel for the parents as well, because they're the ones racing around, having to make this decision on tyres and changing tyres quickly as well. So you've got to feel for the riders and the parents as well.
I'm sure the ladies' wine evening soothed some of those challenges after the day's racing.
Yeah, I think they were well lubricated at the end of it. Yeah, they always enjoy that.
Another day's racing to look forward to. Yesterday we had various riders return who haven't necessarily taken part in the last couple of rounds. We had the usual names, Casey O'Gorman with another great day. We talked about Ross Maguire, a great day. So loads of riders who've really stood out during yesterday's racing.
And it's incredible in so many of the classes how close it is. You know, there's seconds or even hundreds of seconds actually separating, you know, top 10 on several of the classes. So there's some incredible competition. So I think we're going to have some really superb racing today.
The other thing I highlighted during the course of the 9 races yesterday was the fact that there were several riders who at the start of the season were maybe struggling for points, who yesterday were coming out and challenging for top 3, 4, 5 positions. And clearly for you, that's what this championship is all about, to see those riders progressing, see those riders developing, making their way towards or up the ladder towards the next category.
Absolutely. There's a lot of hard work that's gone into getting them into that position from the families, you know, investments in the bike, but also getting the kids lots of track time, you know, is absolutely vital. So, you know, and their confidence is growing. We've been very lucky this season so far with the weather on the whole, so that means that we've had some really good dry racing. But yeah, it's a lot of effort's gone into it, and it's paying off for some of those kids, and as it will for all of them, they stick with it.
Talking about bike time and the weather yesterday, during those second qualifying sessions when we did have the rain, even though riders weren't going to improve their times, they still carried on setting laps, just as you said, to gain the track time and the experience. So over the course of the weekend, the warm-ups, the practices, the qualifying sessions and the 3 races, there's a lot of track time for these young riders.
It's vital for these young riders, absolutely. So they're all getting set up here on the grid. That's good. It's a big grid as well. Look at them reaching right around the corner. 25, I think it is.
The AC40 rookies are lining up here off the front row. We've got Carl Payne and Harrison Crosby. Crosby, the current championship leader. Second row of the grid, Luca Hopkins and Jamie Woodcock. Third row, Orlando Phillips and James Rose. Yesterday's winner, Sullivan Mountsie, coming through from further back down the grid, has made another good start, immediately up into 6th position and challenging for P5 on the tail of Jamie Woodcock. A clean break for the top runners, but as per yesterday's race, Sullivan Mountsie moving immediately through from that 8th position and already up into 6th place. So we'll see where he can work his way through to and how quickly he can try to get towards the front. In terms of the championship standings, Harrison Crosby leading it by 18 points ahead of Luca Hopkins, who closed the gap by 7 points with a second place in race number 1. And Jamie Woodcock in 3rd in those championship standings, having earlier in the season led after a massive score at the opening round of the season. He's found points slightly tougher to come by in recent rounds, but he does sit just in behind Sullivan Mountsie here at the end of the opening lap. He's been relegated down to 5th position, so Mountsie already through from 8th rather into 4th position, as Jamie Woodcock is relegated to P5. Orlando Phillips down to 6th place. He's trying to come around the outside now of Jamie Woodcock, but Woodcock blocks him out, so holding on to that 5th place as they come through 180 and up towards Oak Tree for the second time, with your race leader Kyle Payne narrowly ahead of Harrison Crosby in 2nd. Luca Hopkins dropping half a second back in 3rd position. 1.5 seconds separating the top 3 now. They're starting to spread away. Sullivan Mountsie, though, closing in on Luca Hopkins, already moving his way up from 8th position on the grid to P4 in the race, and dropping the rest of that group from 5th position down. Jamie Woodcock, Orlando Phillips, James Rose, Alfie Davidson and Ethan Sparks in a pack together, really, as they come onto the start-finish straight, and the leaders come into turn 1. Carl Payne still ahead, improving his pace on that lap, as you'd expect on the second lap of the race. A 54 flat for him, 54.1 for Harrison Crosby, so they're going together on the same pace here. Luca Hopkins dropping back ever so slightly, but we're talking about 0.2 of a second maybe in 3rd position. And Sullivan Mountsie faster than the 2 riders ahead of him, trying to close in now on those top 3 places, having worked his way through from 8th to 1st in race 1. Let's see what he can do in the remaining 6 laps of race 2. Great start from Carl Payne this time around, ended up dropping back down to score just 8 points for 8th position in race number 1, but no such trouble in race 2. Looking good out in front, ahead of Harrison Crosby, who sets a new fastest lap of the race of 53.6 to close the gap back down to 0.6 of a second. A second further in arrears, Luca Hopkins. 4th place, Sullivan Mounsey, who hasn't really been able to make too much further progress since moving through from 8th into 4th position. In fact, was half a second slower than the 3 riders ahead of him on that previous lap. So Sullivan Mounsey dropping back a little bit now in 4th position as Jamie Woodcock loses 5th position. Orlando Phillips it is who's come through. Woodcock trying to repay the compliment down the inside, down to the far end of the circuit, but has to back out of that move, and that's given the pace advantage now to James Rose, who's going to try and go all the way around the outside, sweeping round and now ducking down the inside of Jamie Woodcock, but Woodcock holds the position and restores that small gap to Orlando Phillips just ahead of him. Phillips then moving through on lap number 4 to get the better of Jamie Woodcock and move into 5th position. Woodcock relegated to P6. Still close between the two of them as they come back down into turn 1. In fact, repaying the compliment there is Jamie Woodcock coming through up the inside of Orlando Phillips into turn 1. Phillips tries to come back around, but it's a long way all the way around the outside of turns 1 and 2, and Woodcock holds position. So good recovery from Jamie Woodcock, who crossed the line at the end of lap 4 down in 6th position after being overtaken by Orlando Phillips, but thundered back down the inside to recover that place. At the moment, the closest fight on the circuit is between those 4 riders in 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th positions. Alfie Davidson on the tail of the group. James Rose just up ahead, Jamie Woodcock in 6th, and Orlando Phillips for the moment in 5th position. Closing up for the race lead as well. Has Harrison Crosby managed to find a way past Kyle Payne? It looks as though he has. Harrison Crosby, the new race leader. Kyle Payne less than 1/10 of a second behind over the line, but overhauled during the course of that one, lap number 5, and they're closing up in a bunch further back down the order as well, with riders going either side now of Jamie Woodcock, who's having to work hard to defend his position. He still sits in 5th place ahead of Orlando Phillips, but they're encountering lap traffic for the first time, and that's making things just that little bit more complicated. Harrison Crosby then led at the end of lap number 5, 3 laps still remaining. They're over at the far end of the circuit now. Luca Hopkins gaining on both Crosby and Payne on that last lap around. Still Payne and Crosby nose to tail. It looks to me as though Kyle Payne has managed to find his way back in front. Kyle Payne, Harrison Crosby, and now Luca Hopkins has joined them. The 3 separated by less than 0.3 of a second as they go into turn 1. Great riding here from Kyle Payne. He didn't give up once he lost the lead. He's recovered the position. Jamie Woodcock is still under pressure, still maintaining the inside line into turn 1 and still maintaining 5th place. But James Rose has picked off Orlando Phillips and is going to be the second rider to have a go at passing Jamie Woodcock, who's riding some good defensive riding here. Harrison Crosby has got back past Kyle Payne again. Payne is going to thunder down the inside into the top turn and come through. That's going to leave Crosby trying to run all the way around the outside, but he can't. And this is excellent racing between the top 2. Kyle Payne and Harrison Crosby have swapped and changed positions at least half a dozen times out in front. They've broken clear on this lap at least of Luca Hopkins in 3rd place. So Hopkins having a tougher time on lap number 7, and that's going to leave him with a margin to make up on the final lap. Kyle Payne leading it then from Harrison Crosby in 2nd. Luca Hopkins over a second in arrears now in 3rd place. That looks settled to him. Sullivan Mounsey still in 4th position, hasn't been able to replicate his race 1 efforts. And Jamie Woodcock about to be overhauled. Around the outside goes James Rose, and Rose makes the move stick to come through for 5th position. Down into turn 1. We haven't seen many riders successfully around the outside of turn 1. Great move there from James Rose. Orlando Phillips further back down the order. Jamie Woodcock trying to get back on terms here with James Rose, but it's Rose now who moves up into 5th position. Woodcock relegated to 6th. The leaders down the Simpson Straight on their way back towards us now. It's still Payne in front from Crosby in 2nd, but less than a bike length between them as they come down into Paddock Bend for the final time. No change in position. Crosby wasn't quite close enough, and Payne wins it, but by the smallest of margins. Harrison Crosby setting the fastest lap of the race on the final lap to finish just 0.2 of a second in arrears of Kyle Payne. 3rd place going to Luca Hopkins. Sullivan Mounsey in 4th position. Jamie Woodcock does eventually recover that 5th place, so James Rose must have got himself into some trouble on the final lap, because he's dropped well and truly back and out of the running. So Jamie Woodcock recovering 5th position then ahead of Orlando Phillips. We had 2 great races in one there. We had the battle between Carl Payne, Harrison Crosby and Luca Hopkins up front. Payne and Crosby in particular swapping and changing positions relentlessly, held one another back for a while, and that enabled Luca Hopkins to get onto their tail. They break clear in the end, Payne taking it ahead of Harrison Crosby in 2nd, and a good separate race for 5th position, which Jamie Woodcock manages to take ahead of Orlando Phillips, Alfie Davidson, Ethan Sparks, Ben Jolliffe and Alessandro Valente.
Thank you very much to Alex Raby for commentating on the first race of the day, the AC40 Rookies. Next out on track, the Mini GP 50s, their first race. And a big hello to everybody who's tuned in live online, to Mick Gard, Joe Kirsch and Brent Gladwin, amongst other people. Fantastic to see that you're literally supporting the FAB-Racing British Mini Bikes Championship. Don't forget to share the post as well, because that will help us all.
The original and best British Championships for mini bikes. This is FAB-Racing from Red Lodge.
Competition time, and anybody who fancies winning a pair of tickets for this weekend's or next weekend's BSB round at Brands Hatch, well, Tamar Motorcycles, Tamar Racing is giving away 2 tickets to attend the BSB event if you're not already heading there yourself. All you have to do is post onto the Tamar Racing Facebook page a picture of your classic 2-stroke, or post it on your own Facebook page and tag Tamar Racing. Make sure you tag it, make sure they see it. The winners will be announced on Thursday via Facebook, and you, or maybe an ideal prize for a friend or family member who wouldn't have already ordinarily be coming to Brands Hatch, might be attending, so that's pretty good. Tamar Motorcycles giving away a pair of tickets to this weekend's Brands Hatch race. Heading out on track right now here at Red Lodge, it's the Mini GP 50 machines. Casey O'Gorman, always a name to watch out for. Bailey Stewart Campbell lined up on the 2nd row of the grid with Evan Belford just ahead of him, and these front 3, perhaps front 4, will be certainly ones to watch. And it'll be called brilliantly, as ever, by our commentator Alex Raby.
Race 2 in the Mini GP 50s then. The winner last time out, Casey O'Gorman, starts once again from pole position. Alongside him, Evan Belford, who finished runner-up to O'Gorman first time out. He's 3rd in the championship, and with points to make up on O'Gorman, who leads him in the standings. The 2nd row of the grid will feature Bailey Stewart Campbell, 3rd place first time out, 4th in the series standings, involved in a close battle with Evan Belford in the points overall, and having finished directly behind him in race number 1, dropped behind him in those series standings. Emmanuel Brinton also lining up off row number 2. Row 3, Corey Stainer, an 11th place finish first time out. Uncharacteristic from him in race number 1. He now has almost 100 points to make up on Casey O'Gorman. He has, though, been the number 7 rider's closest rival in this category, the Mini GP 50s. Alongside him on row number 3, Thomas Gomes, 4th place first time out, behind Bailey Stewart Campbell, still 6th in the championship standings, and his battle really is with Sandy Horn, who starts 2 rows behind in position number 10, 5th in the championship, and 2 points up on Thomas Gomes. Building up towards the red lights and waiting for them to drop and get us underway with race number 2 in the Mini GP 50s. Good start from Casey O'Gorman, not such a fast one from Evan Belford, but he does manage to cover the inside line into turn 1. The riders tiptoeing around turn 2 with Bailey Stewart Campbell relegated to 4th position early on. A stronger start this time around from Corey Stainer. That's more like it for him. Straight up from P5 on the grid into 3rd position in the early part of the race. A bit of a gap emerging behind 4th position. It's Thomas Gomes who's leading the remainder of the group as they come up the hill to the far side of the circuit, through the twists and turns at what are known as the S's, onto the Simpson Straight and back towards Paddock Bend. The race leader is Casey O'Gorman, undefeated in this category in 2017. No great surprise, therefore, to see him up front once again. Close for 3rd position between Corey Stainer and Bailey Stewart Campbell. Stewart Campbell trying to recover after a strong first lap from Corey Stainer. Stainer just about holding on to it though as they come onto the infield section for the second time. 3rd and 4th position, the closest race. The top 2 breaking away. Evan Belford with a sizable gap behind him now to this fight between Corey Stainer and Bailey Stewart Campbell over P3. Separate race for 5th position between Thomas Gomes and Emmanuel Brinton, who started 6th and 4th respectively. And it's Thomas Gomes who's been on the march. A good start on his opening lap. And that's left Emmanuel Brinton trying to recover from 6th position. Finn Smart 7th, Jaden Toomer 8th, Sandy Horn in 9th position, Mason Johnson rounding out the top 10 at the end of lap 1. Still close for 3rd position between Corey Stainer and Bailey Stewart Campbell. Stewart Campbell looking down to the inside into turn 1, but again has to back out of it. Not quite alongside, but he's going to go for a lunge into turn 2. In the end, he has to stand it up. Holding on to the position, Corey Stainer in 3rd, behind Evan Belford in 2nd. Casey O'Gorman, the race leader, setting a new fastest lap of the race of 48.3. No one's dipped below the 49s yet, other than Casey O'Gorman in this race number 2 in the Mini GP 50s. 2 leaders well clear now of Corey Stainer in 3rd position. His fight with Bailey Stewart Campbell. Not too far behind them, in fact less than a second behind them, Thomas Gomes, and the same margin to Emmanuel Brinton in 6th place. And then the field starts to spread out further down the order. Stewart Campbell all the way alongside has made the move down into Paddock Bend, down the inside, taking 3rd position. Great move from Bailey Stewart Campbell. Corey Stainer then relegated to 4th position. Thomas Gomes and Emmanuel Brinton flash across the line close behind, and Emmanuel Brinton half a second gained on Thomas Gomes on that previous lap. So this group is bunching up into a 4-rider fight now. Corey Stainer immediately dropping back from Bailey Stewart Campbell, will come under pressure from Thomas Gomes in 5th position and Emmanuel Brinton in 6th. Brinton will want to clear Gomes quickly because the speed with which Emmanuel Brinton's closed on Thomas Gomes suggests there is more to come in this race from the rider who currently sits in 6th position. So 4th, 5th and 6th close to one another, particularly positions 5 and 6. Thomas Gomes versus Emmanuel Brinton. The race leader, Casey O'Gorman, a 48 flat on that previous lap, gaining another second over Evan Belford in 2nd. Almost 4 seconds up now, and 5 seconds behind them is the 3rd position rider, Bailey Stewart Campbell. Emmanuel Brinton managing to get past Thomas Gomes and through now for 5th position. So Gomes is relegated to 6th place. Half a second a lap faster, Emmanuel Brinton, at the moment than both Thomas Gomes and Corey Stainer. Stainer's now the next one in the sights of the number 93, Emmanuel Brinton, who sits in 5th position as they go to the far end of the circuit. No change for 7th, 8th and 9th positions. Holly Harris just appearing in the top 10. So that's a position change further down the order as Casey O'Gorman comes in to complete lap number 5. Still 7 laps remaining, but it doesn't look as though anyone's going to touch him here. His unbeaten run will continue. Evan Belford 4.5 seconds behind. Bailey Stewart Campbell a full 10 seconds from the leader. Corey Stainer leading that group behind Emmanuel Brinton and Thomas Gomes. Gomes hasn't given up on the tail of Brinton, but lost another half second on that previous lap. So things starting to settle down in this race. And the closest fight looks to be for 4th and 5th positions between Corey Stainer and Emmanuel Brinton. Closing up as well between Finn Smart and Jaden Toomer. Toomer within half a second last time over the start-finish line, and we've got 3 riders running at a very similar pace from 7th to 9th places. And Holly Harris only fractionally behind Mason Johnson, going up towards the far end of the circuit as well. Watching this tussle between Corey Stainer in 4th position, Emmanuel Brinton, as they come over the start-finish straight once again. At the half-race distance, less than half a second between Corey Stainer and Emmanuel Brinton over 4th and 5th positions. Brinton runs wider there, coming through the infield section, trying to build up something wider into 180, much faster on the exit, but the longer route around the outside line, and the positions are unchanged for 4th and 5th. 6th place, still with Thomas Gomes. 7th, Finn Smart, still under pressure from Jaden Toomer. Those two riders coming on to Oak Tree now, with Mason Johnson and Holly Harris behind. And Harris nibbling away at Mason Johnson, trying to find a way through. Looks for a move on the top turn. Brinton doing the same now on the tail of Corey Stainer. Brinton's been tucked right up behind Stainer for the best part of 3 laps now, but hasn't been able to find a way through so far. Finn Smart still holding off Jaden Toomer, still not too much in it. And Holly Harris is also having a good go here at Mason Johnson. I think that's an overtaking manoeuvre down the inside into turn 1. Holly Harris, having moved up into the top 10, has now taken P9 and will swiftly close in on this group. Finn Smart and Jaden Toomer up ahead in a pair. Toomer looking to the inside, can't quite get there. Smart holds on to the position for now. They're on to Oak Tree, those two riders, in 7th and 8th positions. And then behind them, Holly Harris has immediately dropped Mason Johnson and started to go after 7th and 8th positions. Casey O'Gorman has backed off the pace slightly, still running half a second quicker per lap than anyone else. And meanwhile, Corey Stainer and Emmanuel Brinton are now matching one another's pace. Brinton not able to do too much once Corey Stainer was up ahead. Holly Harris going for another move down the inside into turn 1, and this time it's for 8th position. So 2 laps in succession, that's an overtaking manoeuvre down the inside into turn 1, and Holly Harris is really on the move here. A second faster than Jaden Toomer and Finn Smart on that previous lap, and that's been converted into an overtaking manoeuvre to take 8th position. Now is Finn Smart under threat for 7th? I think the answer is yes. Harris diving down the inside at the far end of the circuit. Back around the outside comes Finn Smart. Harris has the inner ground, moves Smart aside and claims the position before the Simpson Straight. 3 position changes in 2 laps. That's outstanding racing from Holly Harris. And now Jaden Toomer is seeing if there might be a way to get past Finn Smart, because since Holly Harris just breezed up to the back of them and cruised past the pair on 1 lap, Jaden Toomer will have been frustrated to be stuck right behind Finn Smart for the duration of this race and not been able to find a way through. Holly Harris has 10 seconds to make up on the next rider up ahead, so 7th position likely to be the best possible finish for the rider of the number 15 bike. Casey O'Gorman with 2 laps remaining out in front, over 7 seconds clear of Evan Belford in 2nd. No change in the tussle for 4th and 5th positions. Emmanuel Brinton has started to drop back somewhat though now. So most of the positions now look settled in race number 2 in the Mini GP 50 category. Thomas Gomes coming back at Emmanuel Brinton at about 0.2 of a second per lap. That gap only half a second last time around, so that is the closest fight at the moment for positions 5 and 6. Emmanuel Brinton versus Thomas Gomes, and in fact Gomes looking to the inside coming off 180. Can't quite get there this time around. Reaching up to the far end of the circuit, the 2 riders that I was talking about in that race for the minor positions. 5th place, Casey O'Gorman though, into the final lap now. 8 seconds clear of Evan Belford up front. This has just been relentless pace from Casey O'Gorman, who has rarely been slower than a 48-second lap, and on only one occasion have any of the other riders managed to get into the 48s, and that was Evan Belford, who sits 2nd, Bailey Stewart Campbell 3rd, Corey Stainer 4th. Still close between 4th, 5th and 6th. Particularly between 5th and 6th positions, as they wind their way out of the infield section. The checkered flag waves for Casey O'Gorman. Comfortable win for him. His unbeaten run continues. Evan Belford will claim 2nd position. and Bailey Stewart Campbell to take third. So the top 3 on the grid have finished in the top 3 positions in each of the 2 races so far in the Mini GP 50 category. But entertaining racing further down the order with Corey Stainer involved in the action. And coming through now for 4th position ahead of Emmanuel Brinton. Thomas Gomes coming up short. He finishes in 6th position. And Holly Harris, what an excellent ride it was to come back from outside of the top 10 and claim 7th position. Harris over the line for P7. Jaden Toomer with 8th, eventually getting the better of Finn Smart, who will record 9th. And Dylan Meller for 10th position. So as I said, excellent racing from Holly Harris to come from outside of the top 10 and claim 7th position. Corey Stainer with an improved ride there for P4, but eventually dropping well back from the top 3 after sitting in a top 3 place from the start and in the early part of that race. Casey O'Gorman, Evan Belford and Bailey Stewart Campbell, the top 3 from qualifying, and the top 3 from race number 1. Also the top 3 in race 2 in the Mini GP 50s.
Attention paddock, attention paddock. Would the owner of a white Audi, registration A1LDU, please remove it from its current parking position, as it is blocking a... It's blocking something. So the owner of a white Audi with the registration A1LDU, could you kindly reposition it, please? Thank you. Riders out on track for the next race, which is the Senior Mini Motos, the second race of the weekend for this category. Remember, they're coming up in seconds, I tell you. Just before then, I just want to say a big shout out and a big hello to Naomi Barnett, who's tuned in today, and Natalie Sennett, hello, and to Christopher Law, who are all tuned in via our live Facebook stream as well. And don't forget to share that Facebook stream as well, because that would be brilliant if you do that. So Brandon Payne will start this race on pole position. Josh Darter starts alongside him in second place. Mark Payne in third and Justin Bainbridge in fourth place. As we go over to our race commentator, Alex Raby.
Well, I'm not quite sure where Leicester picked up that last information from, but anyway, lining up for race number 2 in the Senior Mini Motos. And ignore everything Leicester just said in terms of the starting positions on the grid. It's Richard Holmes-Williams lining up on pole, Brandon Payne alongside, Will Howarth on the second row of the grid alongside Matt Birkin. Sorry, Leicester. Producer Leicester's really enjoying this. He loved that public service announcement as well. That went so well. Here we go for race number 2 then. Just waiting for Richard Holmes-Williams on pole position. Brandon Payne alongside, finished second first time out. Will Howarth on row 2 is the one to watch. Third position on the grid, winner in race number 1 and championship leader in the Senior Mini Motos. Matt Birkin alongside, finished in P3 in race 1 and currently sits 4th in the championship. We've got 3 riders, 2nd to 4th, separated by 6 points overall, and they're the ones to watch. Positions 4, 6 and 8 on the grid. Lights out. Amazing drag race to the first turn from Will Howarth, but none of those top 3 positions change. The top 3 though do break away, as they did actually in race number 1. And in qualifying as well, the top three were significantly faster than anyone else in the field. Will Howarth already attacking on the tail of Brandon Payne. Got more or less alongside coming off 180, but the circuit bends away to the right and there's no way through there. So Howarth tucking back into third position. Richard Holmes-Williams breaking away this time, so a much better start from him. He could only manage 7th position first time out. Will Howarth trying to find a way through into second position. Has managed to do so. So Brandon Payne relegated to third. Now we'll find out what Will Howarth can do up against Richard Holmes-Williams, because whatever the issue was in race 1, Richard Holmes-Williams has stepped back onto his qualifying pace in race number 2. Holmes-Williams up front, 1.5 seconds clear of Will Howarth in second. Brandon Payne in third. And Brandon Payne now leading a group behind that's quite honestly trailing this lead duo. Holmes-Williams is blasting clear up front. And Will Howarth had to negotiate Brandon Payne on that opening lap. Payne now with Matt Birkin, Josh Darter, Bernie Hook, Paul Nicholls on his tail. This group stayed together yesterday and produced some amazing action in the midfield in race number 1. And it wouldn't surprise me if we see much the same in race 2. Already you can see from Brandon Payne in third position down to Josh Darter in 5th. Less than a second between those riders. And the same situation between Bernie Hook and Paul Nicholls in 6th and 7th. So a real group of riders running up in a train through the exit of the infield section up towards Oak Tree and the far end of the circuit here at Red Lodge. Race leader Richard Holmes-Williams looking comfortable for the moment as he emerges up front onto the Simpson Straight. Must be something like 2.5 seconds ahead now. 2 seconds was the gap at the end of the last lap, but it's clear he's opened that further on lap number 3. A new fastest lap of the race of 48.7. It is 2.5 seconds. Brandon Payne still leading Matt Birkin, but that gap is narrowing now. And Brandon Payne, having been dispatched by Will Howarth, looks under more pressure from the group behind than he does in with a chance of closing in on the 2 riders ahead. Damage limitation now and trying to hold on to position for Brandon Payne, runner-up first time out, who's third this time around, with Matt Birkin clawing all over his tail. Birkin having moved to within 6 points of Josh Darter and Mark Payne, who are tied for second in the series standings, has an opportunity to overhaul them here. A podium position would do him the world of good in the championship overall, particularly with one of his main rivals, Josh Darter, directly behind him in 5th position. Mark Payne down in 9th, so this would see him drop from 2nd to 4th in the championship standings as things stand. Real tussle going on for 6th, 7th and 8th places. Brad Ray passing Paul Nicholls, that's for 7th position on the number 28 bike. So all change further down the order as well. But it's Richard Holmes-Williams now with a 3-second lead over Will Howarth in second. Brandon Payne still in third ahead of Matt Birkin. Watching out for them as they come around the far end of the circuit. Through the S's with, as I said, a group of 9 riders, all within touching distance of one another. All of these positions still have time to change in the remaining 3 laps. Looks unlikely that the top 2 will change though. Richard Holmes-Williams with a 48.5, another new fastest lap of the race. This is more like it for him, a second faster than he went in qualifying. He struggled for pace in race 1, dropping back from 1st on the grid to 7th, but no such difficulties in race 2, and the fight is over 3rd. Still, Matt Birkin clawing all over the back of Brandon Payne. Josh Darter in 5th position, and somewhat isolated in that 5th place as well. Closer fights for 6th and then for 9th as well, with Mark Payne now having dropped back to 10th place, and that's not a good result in the context of his championship. And the rider who sat 2nd in the series standings threatened with dropping down at least to 4th in this race. 2 laps remaining for Richard Holmes-Williams, negotiating the infield section. 3rd and 4th positions as close as they've been all race. Less than a 10th of a second between them as they came over the line. Brandon Payne still holding the position ahead of Matt Birkin in 4th place. Still that group of riders from 6th position down. Paul Nicholls ahead of Bernie Hook, Andy Whedon and Justin Bainbridge. They're all within a second of one another as they come into the closing stages of this race. And that group of 4 riders going up to the far end of the circuit, all running at a similar pace. Andy Whedon and Justin Bainbridge, the riders behind in that group, were the fastest of the quartet last time around. We are now into the final lap. Holmes Williams ahead, Howarth in 2nd, 3rd Brandon Payne. Matt Birkin has been unable to find a way through. Looks up to the outside into turn 2 to see if he can give himself a good slingshot through the infield section, but has to back out of it into the left-hander. And that leaves him behind, going through 180, and he just slides coming off the turn as he tries to put down the power desperately early. He's run wide now, and I think that's ended the race for 3rd position. Brandon Payne will hold on ahead of Matt Birkin. Andy Whedon making further progress on that previous lap. I did say he was the fastest of that quartet, and he's managed to get the better of Bernie Hook now for 7th position. Richard Holmes Williams takes the checkered flag. Will Howarth will be over the line in 2nd. So reversal of fortunes. The race 1 winner, Will Howarth, can only manage 2nd there, but will still extend his championship lead. His first defeat, in fact, in the senior mini motos in 2017 by my reckoning, and it's inflicted by Richard Holmes Williams. Brandon Payne over the line in 3rd. Matt Birkin in 4th, eventually 1.5 seconds adrift. I did say that he was struggling to keep pace on that last lap after running a little bit wide, a little bit too enthusiastic. Andy Whedon finishing 0.2 of a second short of Paul Nicholls. He takes 7th. Bernie Hook in 8th. Justin Bainbridge in 9th. An improved result for him, and Mark Payne in 10th. But the first defeat of the season in the senior mini motos for Will Howarth, who went unbeaten here at round 2 in April. Won in race number 1 here yesterday, and manages 2nd position this time around behind pole sitter Richard Holmes Williams. The main pass in the early part of the race, Will Howarth passing Brandon Payne for P2. Payne then holding off all the traffic behind him. They really were in a group on his tail at one stage, and Payne eventually getting himself a little bit of a buffer for 3rd position ahead of Matt Birkin.
Thank you very much, Alex Raby, and well done to Richard Holmes Williams. I didn't forget about him. I don't think anyone can hear this on the PH. So I was looking at completely the wrong thing when I didn't read his name out earlier, but that's all forgotten about. This is Cool Fab Racing. My name is Lester, and big hello to Yamaha Superbike Team Sweden, who are tuned in right now via Facebook. Yes, they're watching us. Incredible. And a big hello to everybody else who's also tuned in. Jake Willard is back. He was also tuned in yesterday. Amy Louise Hudson says good luck, Brandon Payne. And Brad Ray was an attendee in that race from the back of the grid. Only managed 5th place though. I'm told he will be also appearing on a sidecar, a mini F1 sidecar. That will be one to watch, as well as the pit bike. He's also out on the pit bikes. He gets about, old Brad, doesn't he? So do keep your comments and messages coming into us. It's at Cool Fab Racing on Twitter and on Facebook as well. And if you are interested, or you know somebody who is, for winning a pair of tickets to next weekend's BSB meeting at Brands Hatch, courtesy of Tamar Motorcycles, Tamar Racing, then all you have to do is take a picture of your classic 2-stroke and post it on the Tamar Racing Facebook page. Make sure you tag Tamar Racing. If it goes up on your personal Facebook page, that's okay as well. This is all from Martin, who's a great guy at Tamar Racing, and the winner of the pair of tickets will be notified on Thursday, this Thursday, via Facebook. So not a bad prize indeed. Out on track next, Junior LC40s.
British Championships for mini bikes. This is Cool Fab Racing from Red Lodge.
For round 5 of the 2017 Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship. And we're getting ready right now for the Junior LC40 category. Here's our commentator, Alex Raby.
Ross Maguire and Casey O'Gorman, who finished in first and second positions first time out in race number 1, line up on the top 2 positions once again on the grid for race 2, the top 2 in the championship standings. O'Gorman lining up off P2 on the grid, having finished behind Ross Maguire by a second in race number 1 and dropping championship points for the first time since the opening round of the season in Llandau. Second row of the grid, Bailey Stewart Campbell, 5th in the championship standings, lining up alongside Taylor Lawrence. Row 3, Ollie Walker and Evan Belford, a good third place in race 1 for Belford. 4th row of the grid, Declan Connell, 4th position in race 1, and Ryan Hitchcock, who finished directly behind him in 5th. And the 5th row of the grid, rounding out the top 10 on this starting line, Sandy Horn and Emmanuel Brinton, the latter of whom suffered a DNF in race number 1. Here we go then, the battle between Ross Maguire and Casey O'Gorman resumed in race number 2 in the Junior LC40 category. Lights out, good start from second from Casey O'Gorman, who gets the first turn first. Can Ross Maguire recover that deficit, because that is an extremely fast start from Casey O'Gorman. Maguire then into second place. The rest of the riders filtering through directly behind Ross Maguire, but Casey O'Gorman has done what he does traditionally, does what he does best, which is hit the front and disappear away. Astonishing riding on the opening lap from Casey O'Gorman, who was beaten in race 1, but doesn't look like he's too keen to be beaten again in race 2. Maguire then in second position, having been relegated off the line. They come round to complete lap number 1. We'll see exactly what the deficit is for Ross Maguire to make up. It's over a second already at the end of lap 1. Bailey Stewart Campbell there in third position. Evan Belford looking for a way through. Not too much in it for third and fourth places, and close for 5th and 6th positions as well between Ryan Hitchcock and Taylor Lawrence. Hitchcock making up a position on that previous lap, bearing in mind that Ryan came from 8th position on the grid. He's already up to P5. Close for third position once again as they go around the top turn between Bailey Stewart Campbell and Evan Belford. But no change in the race leading positions. Casey O'Gorman looking comfortable up ahead of Ross Maguire in second place. The top 2 in the championship. Back in championship order now. Again, Evan Belford looking for a way through. He goes wider into turn 1, then tries to carve up the inside of Bailey Stewart Campbell, but he wasn't completely alongside and backed out of it into turn 2. Hitchcock versus Lawrence, the ongoing battle for 5th and 6th places as well. Lawrence up the inside, can't get there. Hitchcock holds the place as they come through the left-hander and up to the far end of the circuit. Belford going for a move down the inside of Bailey Stewart Campbell, who keeps it on around the outside and manages to get back across. So Stewart Campbell versus Belford looks like a race that's going to the flag as well. Just 3 laps completed as Casey O'Gorman comes over the line, ahead of Ross Maguire in second. Maguire the faster of the 2 on that previous lap. Belford thinks about a move once again down into turn 1. He's faster coming off Paddock Bend, but it's not a long enough straight for him to get down the inside there. And Bailey Stewart Campbell valiantly holding third position at the moment. Ross Maguire has managed to run fractionally faster than Casey O'Gorman on each of the 2 previous laps, but O'Gorman's brilliant first lap has given him a 1 second buffer out in front. Belford completely alongside this time. Into the far end of the circuit against Bailey Stewart Campbell and Ryan Hitchcock, still under pressure from Taylor Lawrence, but Lawrence can't seem to find a way through either. Separate group of 3 riders, Declan Connell, Ollie Walker and Sandy Horn in 7th, 8th and 9th positions altogether. So as I said, Evan Belford getting the better of Bailey Stewart Campbell on that previous lap for third position, just charging down the inside with a massive overspeed down the far end of the circuit and coming through. Stewart Campbell 4th, Ryan Hitchcock in 5th. Not too far behind the squabble for third and fourth positions, actually, Ryan Hitchcock and Taylor Lawrence right behind in P6. Declan Connell a second in arrears of those riders, with Ollie Walker and Sandy Horn right on his tail. Johnny Garner's back up into the top 10 positions, having started in 11th on the grid. Garner's finished in 7th place first time out coming through. Race leaders, no change there. Casey O'Gorman sets a new fastest lap of the race. It's still just over a second. The deficit for Ross Maguire to make up. He's shown no signs of being able to do so far. 3 laps remaining. Evan Belford third. Half a second clear of Bailey Stewart Campbell, making up another 0.3 of a second on that previous lap, Evan Belford. So starting to pull away. The gap stabilising from the, or between the top 5 riders. Then behind, Taylor Lawrence, Declan Connell, Ollie Walker, Sandy Horn, all within 2 seconds of one another around the far end of the circuit. Just over 2 laps remaining now for Casey O'Gorman, looking set to return to winning ways. Went unbeaten in round 2 here at Red Lodge, round 3 in Rowrah, round 4 in Tattershall. Beaten yesterday in race 1. One of the standout performances of the day from Ross Maguire, who had brilliant races in both of his categories. Set for defeat though in race number 2 in the junior LC40 category. Another half a second gained by Casey O'Gorman on that previous lap. Half a second faster than his qualifying time. 47.7 for Casey O'Gorman, as he comes down towards our home straight commentary position once again, and will start his final lap clear of Ross Maguire. Evan Belford and Bailey Stewart Campbell in 3rd and 4th positions. 5th with Ryan Hitchcock still narrowly over Taylor Lawrence. Declan Connell has had a go at making up that deficit, and has indeed made it up. He's actually at the front of that group now. So he was 3rd in that group, but he's managed to overtake Taylor Lawrence to come through for P5. Lawrence then still in 6th place. 7th with Ollie Walker, Sandy Horn, Johnny Garnis and Emmanuel Brinton also making up positions, and that must be related to the 4 we had just before Oak Tree. Race leader Casey O'Gorman, 2.5 seconds clear of Ross Maguire, is coming around Paddock Bend for the final time to return to winning ways and extend the championship margin. Checkered flag for Casey O'Gorman in race 2 of the junior LC40s. 2nd, Ross Maguire. He can't be too disappointed about that after his excellent efforts in race 1. Evan Belford gets 3rd, Bailey Stewart Campbell 4th, and Declan Connell a late recovery to take 5th position after recording P4 in race number 1. That's another good recovery ride from him. Taylor Lawrence, Ollie Walker, Sandy Horn, Emmanuel Brinton and Johnny Garnis rounding out the top 10 in race 2 of the junior LC40 category.
The original and best British championships for mini bikes. This is Cool Fab Racing from Red Lodge.
Yes, we certainly are, and it's round 5 of the 2017 championship. We're back at Red Lodge, and we're really enjoying today, and the warm weather has stayed. Hopefully a bit of sun trying to break through. We don't want any rain. We're getting ready for the next category out on track. It's the Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team race. And on pole position is Jamie King, I think. I got that right, it is Jamie King.
Leicester's getting very offended that reading the names off the screen didn't work last time. What had happened, Leicester, was that they'd all flashed past the timing beam, I think, so it probably
they knew
shook
I
it
was
all up
trying to
or
read it
something.
out, and then they, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was curse of the not commentator. Leicester was the issue first time around, perhaps. Work this time though. Jamie King is indeed on pole position, as the timing screen says. The good thing is, as you were explaining to everyone at home yesterday, those who are watching on Facebook Live, they will have been able to see the timing screen agreed with what you were saying. So that vindicates you to some extent.
Exactly. Yeah, so take it away.
Thank you. That's very good of you. Race number 2 in the Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team categories. Row number 1, as Leicester correctly stated, Jamie King in pole position, Alex Vella alongside. The winner in race number 1 in the Pit Bike 140 category, ahead of Jamie King and James Blackburn. Blackburn, who finished 3rd in race 1, starts 3rd in race 2. 2nd in the series standings on 157 points, now tied with Ben Pascoe, having moved up and joint with Pascoe after race number 1 scoring. Pascoe starts in 6th position on the grid here. Ahead of him, James Ansell in P4 and Ryan Vickers in 5th. The first of the Moto Team runners starts in 7th position, Will Howarth, who took the checkered flag in the Moto Team category yesterday. Sam Clowes, Sean Whittaker and Ian Jackson rounding out the top 10 on the grid. And the 2nd and 3rd position finishers in race 1 in the Moto Team category start in 11th and 12th positions in this race. Darren Anderson and Fraser Kinnaird. Riders waiting for the lights then as the rivalry is resumed between Vella, King and Blackburn. Not a great start from Jamie King. He tries to muscle his way to the inside on turn 1, but Alex Vella comes all the way around the outside to pick up the race lead. And the race 1 winner, Alex Vella, is back out in front once again here in race number 2. 2nd position is with Jamie King. 3rd is with James Blackburn. The top 3 were able to break clear in race 1. Will they be able to do the same in race 2? All of the riders bar 1 making it successfully around the opening couple of turns. And remounted, the stricken rider from that fall on turn 2 resumes the race. Alex Vella impressively breaking clear at the top of the field. That wasn't the case yesterday. 1st, 2nd and 3rd were separated by less than a second for the majority of the race. Did eventually finish separated by less than a second as well. Alex Vella has just over half a second down in front here, ahead of Jamie King. James Blackburn tries to go all the way around the outside of turns 1 and 2 but can't make it stick. So King holding on to P2. Jamie King is the championship leader at the moment on 253 championship points, so well clear, almost 100 points clear of Ben Pascoe and James Blackburn. Blackburn sitting directly behind him in 3rd position, and Ben Pascoe in 5th at the end of lap number 1. Hasn't had the pace to match the top 3 runners in the Pit Bike 140 category. No great surprises that Will Howarth, who was something like a second a lap quicker than anyone else in the Moto Team category in race number 1, sits up in 6th place in the scratch race and is the leader in the Moto Team. Ryan Vickers right with this duo of James Blackburn and Jamie King, and Blackburn's already picked off King. I think it was only the yellow flags there that stopped Ryan Vickers from doing the same. 5th, Ben Pascoe. 6th, Will Howarth, who's right on Pascoe's tail. They're in separate classes, but they're doing battle over 5th in the scratch race. Alex Vella over a second clear now, taking advantage of the 3-way fight between James Blackburn, Jamie King and Ryan Vickers, and specifically King being overhauled by Blackburn on that previous lap, has enabled Alex Vella to break away. Will it be a second consecutive race victory for him? It'll move him a lot closer to the top 3 in the championship standings as well, if he can maintain top spot. Vella still from Blackburn in second. New fastest lap of the race from James Blackburn. He's put daylight between himself and Jamie King. He's also closed in on Alex Vella, brought that gap back down to less than a second. Vella encountering the first of the lap traffic. That should bunch them up as well. King still holding third position with Ryan Vickers in fourth, less than half a second behind. Less than 2 seconds separating the top 4. Ryan Vickers, who finished in fourth position but well adrift of the top 3 in race 1, is performing far better here in race 2 as Alex Vella comes under intense pressure from James Blackburn through the S's, but manages to recover the position, clambering back to the racing line to hold the race lead. Alex Vella from James Blackburn. Blackburn going for the outside. Vella has to snake across the circuit to block him out into turn 1. Really defensive riding from Alex Vella, but I'm not sure he can keep that up for 10 whole laps. James Blackburn directly behind him, 0.7 of a second faster on lap 4. And Vella with a slower lap there has also been caught by Jamie King and Ryan Vickers. So the front 4 separated by just over a second at the end of lap 4. With 10 laps to go, we should have quite an entertaining race here. Will Howarth, the leader in the moto team, has got the better of Ben Pascoe for 5th in the scratch race. Doesn't affect things too much because Will Howarth's nearest rival, at least in the moto team class, is something like 10 seconds back and outside of the top 10 in the scratch race. Still Vella from Blackburn by 0.2 of a second. Jamie King and Ryan Vickers dropping back a little on that lap, so inconsistent pace being shown by the top 4. And Alex Vella is clearly holding back the pace now of James Blackburn, who closed at him by half a second a lap, and then since getting onto his tail has dropped the pace back off again. Ian Jackson in 10th position with a new personal best on that previous lap, so various riders involved in their own squabbles further down the order, but it's this race leading battle between 4 riders that is taking the focus for the moment. Not even at the half race distance yet, as Alex Vella lunges for the inside into Paddock Bend to make a pass on one of the lap runners. James Blackburn trying to take advantage of that to come around the outside. He is going to go all the way around the outside of turn 2, but that leaves him vulnerable. He loses second position. Jamie King comes storming through down the inside. That was a mistake from James Blackburn. They went 3 wide into turn 2, and Blackburn was on the outside, not only of the race leader, but also of a back marker. And when the back marker ran wide, Blackburn was forced wide and Jamie King came through for second. That's given Alex Vella back his 1 second lead. He's got some breathing room once again out in front. And if I'm not much mistaken, it looks as though Ryan Vickers has come past James Blackburn as well. Blackburn from 2nd to 4th has not negotiated lap traffic well at all. And it'll be Jamie King who sits in 2nd position at the end of lap 7 at the half race distance. Ryan Vickers sits 3rd. James Blackburn relegated to 4th position, but he's managed to get back through for 3rd now into turn number 1. So it's Vella from King, from Blackburn, from Vickers. This really is anyone's race. They've been swapping and changing positions. For a while it looked as though James Blackburn would become the new race leader, having clambered his way onto the back of Alex Vella from over a second down, but he's given away 2nd position. Now he's got to try and recover that if he wants to go after the race leader. Jamie King is the next rider to have a go at the tail of Alex Vella. He was dropping back in the early parts of the race, but now he is the faster of the 2. Looks up to the outside down the Simpson Straight, but that becomes the outside into Paddock Bend, and so Alex Vella holds on, but there's not much in it, and Vella's trying to snake left and right to block the pair out. Manages to hold ground on the inside. Blackburn's gone for the outside, goes all the way around the outside of Jamie King, who is being held back on the inside line by Alex Vella. Great move from James Blackburn, and now down the inside goes Ryan Vickers. Nobody's tried that move down the inside into 180 here this weekend, and Vickers makes it stick as well. So Jamie King has gone from 2nd to 4th in the first half a lap on lap number 9. Alex Vella, your race leader, but there's nothing in it now. James Blackburn all over the back of him. Ryan Vickers in 3rd position, dropping slightly back but still in contention. And the same can be said for Jamie King, relegated from 2nd to 4th on that lap. The championship leader sits outside of the top 3 positions. Alex Vella going very defensive each lap around on turns 1 and 2. And that's what oh, Vella's gone down at the front of it. He's brought 2nd place down as well. And around the outside now comes Jamie King through into 2nd position. Scrambling back onto the machine, it's Alex Vella. He's straight back up to his feet. Blackburn as well is on his feet. But it looks as though he's having greater problems with the machine. Vella went down on the racing line into 180. Back end came round, down he went. Blackburn straight into the back of him. And Vickers and King are the new race leaders. Well, I did say that absolutely anything could happen the way they were nose to tail in the top 4 positions, separated by less than a second over the line into lap number 10. And it's on lap number 10 that it's all kicked off. And Jamie King, the championship leader, has come up smelling of roses, because James Blackburn is out of the race. And Alex Vella, who looked like his main threat up front, is well adrift now in 4th in the race behind Will Howarth. 10 seconds back from the race leader now, Alex Vella. There's no way he's going to make that up in just 4 laps. The most frustrated rider will be Blackburn, having gone into the back of a rider who was right in the path of him, right in the racing line. Nothing that James Blackburn could have done there. Well, that settled things, I think, in terms of this race. The only last question is whether Jamie King can close in the seconds deficit on Ryan Vickers. That second was because he had to weave his way around the outside of the fallen riders, whereas Ryan Vickers managed to just squeeze through on the inside. No, Jamie King 2 seconds back now, so slipping further away. But 2nd place is great for him in the championship. Ryan Vickers is making his first appearance this weekend, so he's not really in contention for the championship fight in the Pit Bike 140 category. 3 laps remaining with Ryan Vickers the race leader. He will become the 2nd different race winner here in the Pit Bike 140 category this weekend if he holds on out in front ahead of Jamie King. King with Will Howarth just over a second behind him. Will Howarth is the leader in the Moto Team category. 2nd in Moto Team is Fraser Kinnaird, who's 10th in the scratch race. Alex Vella in 4th on track, with Ben Pascoe for company. Pascoe just a 2nd in arrears, and Sam Klaus in 6th position. It's pretty close actually for 4th, 5th and 6th places, but Vella, you fancy, has the pace advantage. Klaus goes for a move there on Ben Pascoe, while Pascoe is being held up by one of the lapped runners. Both of them have successfully negotiated that rider now through 180. 2 laps to go. Ryan Vickers the race leader, Jamie King 2nd, 3 seconds in arrears. This result's good enough for him to further extend a championship lead that will now be more than 100 points for Jamie King. Will Howarth now just 0.3 of a second behind 2nd place in the scratch race. He doesn't need to go for a move on Jamie King on this, the final lap. He might have a go anyway. As they come into 180, Howarth going in wider, tries to get the power down earlier coming off the turn, does so. King holds the position, then gets tucked up behind a back marker. Howard's going to get the better acceleration coming up Oak Tree, but he can't make a move, and King holds on to 2nd in the scratch race. As I said, it won't make any difference in terms of the Pit Bike 140 result here. King is on for 2nd position. Will Howarth is the top rider in the Moto Team class. Last lap board about to be exchanged for the checkered flag as Ryan Vickers comes through to become the 2nd different race winner in a frenetic Pit Bike 140 race. 2nd over the line, Jamie King. 3rd in the scratch race, Will Howarth. He's the winner in the Moto Team class. Alex Vella eventually the faller and early race leader, coming through for 3rd in Pit Bike 140. Ben Pascoe and Sam Klaus right behind him on track. So what an exciting race that was in the Pit Bike 140s. Alex Vella the early race leader, Jamie King, Ryan Vickers and James Blackburn swapping and changing positions between 2nd and 4th before down on the racing line went Alex Vella. And the rider in 2nd in the championship standings, James Blackburn, gets caught up in the melee, retires from the race, and that gives Ben Pascoe back second position in the championship standings. Alex Vella then taking third in the Pit Bike 140s, second going to Jamie King, and your race winner, Ryan Vickers.
Fantastic stuff, thank you very much, Alex Raby, and well done to everybody who on track in the Pit Bike 140 and Moto Team race, who provided some spectacular action out on track. The third and final race from them coming up later. The scheduled time is 3:10 for the third race. However, we may be running a little bit ahead of schedule, I'll tell you that. Approximately 15 minutes by my calculation. No official word on that, so don't take my word for that. This is Cool Fab Racing. We are live from round 5 of the 2017 Championship, and we're back at Red Lodge. Lovely, sunny, warm Red Lodge. Loads of people getting in touch with us from around the world who are tuned in to this event. From people in India, Malaysia, I'm not joking, literally. Our web stream on Facebook Live is reaching quite a lot of people at the moment, and you can also listen to the live radio stream on our website, coolfabracing.com, as well. A quick reminder, if you have any people at home who might want to attend next week's BSB event at Brands Hatch, then there are a couple of tickets up for grabs as a prize. All you have to do is take a picture of your classic two-stroke and post it on the Tamar Racing Facebook page, courtesy of Martin Taylor at Tamar, who's giving away these wonderful tickets. Prizes will be announced for the couple of tickets for Brands Hatch this weekend on Thursday via the Facebook page. So get involved with that. Alex?
Just an announcement for all of the riders in the paddock. Just some information. As you can see, we're running ahead of schedule at the moment. So the current time is 11:43, and we've just finished the 11:45 race. So we're running 15, almost 20 minutes ahead of schedule. For that reason, races will be brought forward before lunchtime. So beware that if you're in the AC40 rookies, it looks likely that race 3 may now take place before lunch. So please be prepared that as we're running ahead, we will continue to the time schedules. In other words, lunch will be at 1:10 but that does mean that if we have the opportunity to do so, we will be bringing races forward. So particularly the riders in the AC40 rookie class and the Mini GP 50 class, they need to be aware that their races may now take place before lunch.
You heard it here first, thank you very much. Official word there, as Crispin Vittoria ran up and informed us of that. So a big hello to Peter Ansel, who's tuned in online, leaving us nice comments. Thank you very much, Peter. And to Jenny Data, who's still tuned in, presumably on our Facebook Live page, and to lots of people who've been giving us lots of shares and likes all around the world to literally make this event today here that we're at worldwide. Incredible, really. And you can contact the studio if you are cheering anybody on and you're at home or anywhere over the world. Get in touch with us. It's at Cool Fab Racing on Twitter and Cool Fab Racing on Facebook. Leave a comment in the comments box if you're watching from home. Alternatively, if you're a rider here at the track, you're more than welcome to come up to the commentary box and let us know how your race went. If you did particularly well, no names, but you're more than welcome to get involved and come up for an interview, and we'll ask you all about how your race went, and if you, especially if you have any big news about the future, if you've been talking about maybe future categories, perhaps.
I thought you were going for lottery numbers.
If you have any of those as well, I'm particularly interested to hear from anybody who has those.
You won't change him. You won't change him, honest.
I'm sure you will. But yeah, there's a little bit of a delay at the moment while...
Ironic, really. We've just shouted out about bringing races forward because we're ahead of time. We do have a slight delay for some remedial work to the circuit on 180, and that must be after the fall going into 180 last time out involving Alex Vella and James Blackburn. But it does look as though they are more or less finished with the work that's been undertaken there. and that will enable us to continue with racing. And next up is the Mini GP 70 category.
Yeah, well swept, lads. The fluid on the track.
May I say, as fluid as your camera work on the visual radio there. That was quite spectacular, Lester.
You're welcome. So yes, exiting the pits onto the track right now. It is the riders for the Mini GP 70 race, and I can tell you that it is Louis Rendell on pole position for this race. Yay!
Well read. Okay then, onto the circuit for race number 2 in the Mini GP 70 category. Louis Rendell, as Lester said, on pole position, the winner first time out. Alongside him, Harvey Claridge. Behind, Jay Abel, the top 3 on the starting grid, finished in the top 3 positions in race 1, and will be looking to do much the same in race 2. In terms of championship fights, watch out for Harvey Claridge, who starts second, and Brodie Crockford, who starts directly behind him in 4th. Now, Crockford was beaten by Claridge last time out, and that enabled Harvey Claridge to move up into 2nd position in the championship standings, tied with Crockford. And it also means that in the absence of Joshua Watley, either Crockford or Claridge could take the lead of this championship in the remaining 2 races here at round 5 in the Mini GP 70 category. Rendell and Claridge, Abel and Crockford, row 3 Beach and Pinson, row 4 Owen Mellor and Jeremy Knight, row 5 Luke Coggins and Elliot Dufton, and starting in 11th position Jaden Toomer. Mini GP 70, race 2 is underway. Well, a fairly even break, and that's enabled the top riders on the grid to immediately assume the top positions, as they did in race number 1. Is Harvey Claridge going to do something about Louis Rendell this time around, having finished almost 2 seconds back in race 1? Jay Abel being dropped by the top 2. He sits in 3rd position. Brodie Crockford sitting in 4th place behind that lead trio, but the closest race is for the top 2 positions. Louis Rendell versus Harvey Claridge, with Jay Abel a bit of a gap behind in 3rd. Brodie Crockford then in 4th position, a second behind Jay Abel, who sits 3rd. Louis Rendell and Harvey Claridge running on the same pace on the opening lap. Rendell, the fastest rider out on the circuit in qualifying, the fastest in race 1. But as I said, in the early part of this race, Harvey Claridge breaking clear at the start. Will he be able to do something about getting the better of Louis Rendell here? Jay Abel 3rd, Brodie Crockford in 4th position, Callum Beach in 5th, Oscar Pinson in 6th position. So Crockford, Beach, Pinson all in their starting positions, as is Jay Abel in 3rd. Claridge, your leader at the end of lap 2. Louis Rendell fractionally faster, but it's quite clear that he's not able to find a passing position at the moment. Gonna have to wait and see, weigh this move up. He's got 12 laps in which to do it. He is visibly faster, particularly coming through the infield section, is where Louis Rendell just gets all over the back of Harvey Claridge and then seems to have to back out of it. Brodie Crockford coming under some pressure now from Callum Beach, who sits in 5th position. Then there's a gap to Oscar Pinson, who's holding off Owen Mellor. That's the fight for 6th position. The race leaders coming back towards our start-finish straight commentary position. Harvey Claridge up front. Louis Rendell as close as he's been all race, 0.2 of a second. And although he is clearly faster than Harvey Claridge, Claridge is riding a perfect race to keep him back. 3rd, Jay Abel. Brodie Crockford with Callum Beach crawling all over the back of him now. 0.3 of a second faster last lap. Owen Mellor did eventually get the better of Oscar Pinson. That was the battle I was calling for P6. And Luke Coggins is next in that group and closing in on it as well. Elliot Dufton coming with him, and then a big gap to Jaden Toomer, who sits in 10th position. Did lose Jeremy Knight right in the early stages, just coming off 180, so he looks set to be the only non-finisher in this one, as Harvey Claridge still leads ahead of Louis Rendell. A new fastest lap of the race from Rendell, though, a 46.6, cutting back up the inside, coming off 180. Again, exactly the same situation. He's faster coming off 180, there's no way through there, and then he finds it really difficult to find an alternative place to pass. Claridge, Rendell, Abel, Crockford, Beach rounding out the top 5, and then a bit of a gap to the rest of the pack. Three-way fight between Owen Mellor, Oscar Pinson and Luke Coggins that's been going on all race. Coggins has gradually gained on the pair of them. Took half a second out last lap over the two of them. Side by side now for the race lead. Louis Rendell comes down the inside and picks off Harvey Claridge, and now that he's in front, we'll see what outright pace he really has. He was gaining gradually on Harvey Claridge. He got things absolutely spot on around Paddock Bend. They were side by side over the start-finish line, and Louis Rendell has immediately made up 5 or 6 bike lengths on Harvey Claridge now that he's in front. I think that might have settled the question as to whether Louis Rendell had the outright pace, as he did in qualifying, as he did in race 1. This is one of the standout performances of the weekend. Louis Rendell, who's really come into his own at round number 5 of this 2017 championship. Rendell only scored 32 points here back at round 2. He's set to score 50 points just from the first 2 races. Louis Rendell, Harvey Claridge. A big gap then to Jay Abel, 9 seconds between second and third positions. Brodie Crockford still holding off Callum Beach. Beach has been the faster of the two of them, but hasn't been able to find a way through. Owen Mellor ahead of Luke Coggins, and Oscar Pinson still the fastest of that trio, or now the fastest of that trio, I should say. Having been overhauled by Luke Coggins. They're still in a group. Coggins, Pinson, and Elliot Dufton is starting to gain on all 3 of them now from 9th position, and that's becoming a 4-rider group. So that's one to watch as well. Louis Rendell with a new fastest lap of the race is now 2 seconds clear of Harvey Claridge. Then there's the group of 3 riders. Jay Abel, Brodie Crockford and Callum Beach. And then the other group I was talking about, the 4 riders from 6th down to 9th, Owen Mellor, Luke Coggins, Oscar Pinson and Elliot Dufton. And it's Coggins who has now emerged at the front of that group. He's picked off Owen Mellor on that last lap, lap number 7. Trying to keep up with all 3 of the battles on the circuit, as they go side by side now for 7th and 8th positions. And down the inside goes Oscar Pinson to make a move on Owen Mellor, and Elliot Dufton has come through as well. So a tough couple of laps for Owen Mellor. Six laps still to go at the end of lap 8. Louis Rendell 3 seconds up now on Harvey Claridge. He's pulling out a second a lap. This is astonishing pace from Louis Rendell, the race leader. Jay Abel, Brodie Crockford and Callum Beach, still nothing to choose between them, less than a second as they start the infield section. And Luke Coggins has broken well clear now of Oscar Pinson and Elliot Dufton, with Dufton trying to get down the inside of Pinson into turn 1, but he was unable to do so. They're now working their way through the infield section as Brodie Crockford starts to launch a move on Jay Abel for 3rd, coming into the far side of the circuit, going all the way around the outside of the pair of them is Callum Beach. That gives him the inside for the right-hander, but he can't do anything to recover the ground. Abel, Crockford and Beach. Which of these 3 riders is going to trigger the first move? It's Crockford at the moment who's on the march, having to back out of it there into turn 2, with Jay Abel already committed to the turn. Crockford losing ground slightly. Callum Beach still right with them. Elliot Dufton having passed Oscar Pinson. What's happened further down the order for Oscar Pinson? I must admit that I didn't see that one. And it is a red flag situation. I did see one being waved at the far side of the circuit. Was waiting for official confirmation before I called it. And I presume Well, perhaps it's best not to presume since I'm going out over the radio, but I do believe I know which rider that is, but we'll wait for official confirmation before we give any information there. Race 2 in the Mini GP 70s has been called to a halt after a fall and a red flag in race number 2.
So we will keep you up to date with whether the race gets restarted. So do stay tuned to Cool Fab Racing Online. The live radio stream is available to listen to right now on coolfabracing.com. Tell people who are at home, family, friends, grandparents, that they can tune in live on the website coolfabracing.com, and of course on our live Facebook stream, which is gaining more and more momentum. That's easy for me to say. And is being shared literally right around the world. We'll be back shortly with more news. And the next race, incidentally, following the GP70s, is the Pit Bike Open. What will Brad Ray get up to on his second race of the day? And will he make an appearance on the sidecars? That is the question. We will find out later. Back again. here at Red Lodge, and we are back live online on our Facebook page and on the website as well. So the Mini GP70 has been declared a result, we believe. Alex Raby with the full classification.
Well, we wait for official confirmation, but at the time of the stoppage, it was Louis Rendell leading the way ahead of Harvey Claridge in second, Jay Abel in third. He was leading the group of Brodie Crockford and Callum Beach. Luke Coggins then had managed to work his way brilliantly, actually, past both Elliot Dufton and Owen Mellor to sit in 6th position. And in the provisional standings at the time of the stoppage, Jayden Toomer was the last of the runners in 9th position. Now we're moving on then to the Pit Bike Open category, and this is the race that Leicester has been hyping up in anticipation of the fight between Max Cook and Brad Ray. Max Cook, the current championship leader in the Pit Bike Open class, and Brad Ray, who led part of race number 1 before eventually coming up 0.3 of a second short. They will line up alongside one another in race number 2. Richard Holmes-Williams, third first time out in race 1. He starts in 3rd position with Will Howarth, who finished 4th in race 1, directly behind him in 5th on the grid. Alongside Holmes-Williams is Brandon Payne. The 3rd row, Will Howarth and Josh Ingram. Row 4, Jack Walters and Felix Hearn. Row 5, Callum Wybrow and Craig Walker. And Greg Pym and Michael Harrington rounding out the grid. Underway then with race 2, Max Cook making the start. Brad Ray immediately into 2nd position, and the top 2 immediately opening up 6 to 10 bike lengths to the group behind them. Ray finds his way around the outside then of Max Cook as they come onto Oak Tree, and Brad Ray is your new race leader. Now this race, you expect it to go quite deep into the race, since Brad Ray picked up the race lead in race 1, only to be overhauled again by Max Cook, who went on to the victory. Cook straight back on Brad Ray's tail as they come to the end of lap number 1. Also in touch is Richard Holmes-Williams, who qualified 3rd. Finished over 10 seconds back from these two in race number 1. So the race-leading trio in the second race in the Pit Bike Open category on lap number 2. Brad Ray leading the way ahead of Max Cook in 2nd, Richard Holmes-Williams in 3rd. Then a gap to the rest of the pack, led by Brandon Payne, ahead of Will Howarth. Payne, who finished down in 7th position in race 1, is having a much better ride here. Howard still in 5th position. Jack Walters and Josh Ingram both or each dropping a position on that previous lap. They now sit in 7th and 8th, but still closely tucked together. Brandon Payne and Will Howarth, the other close fight aside from that race-leading trio. Brad Ray with a 46.1 on that previous lap, Max Cook with a 46.2, and Richard Holmes-Williams with a 46.3. That's incredibly tight in terms of pace. 0.6 of a second separating them at the end of lap 2, and only 0.5 of a second separating them at the end of lap 3. Richard Holmes-Williams, the fastest of the trio, a 46 flat. But actually, the times of Brad Ray, Max Cook and Richard Holmes-Williams on lap 3 were less than 0.1 of a second apart. They're all running at the same pace up front. Brad Ray trying to stretch his legs now. Down at the far side of the second, we've got a faller just coming off 180. A big high side, but straight back up to his feet. So that's obviously the first priority. I think that's Josh Ingram, if I'm not much mistaken. on the number 47 bike, and I'm just hearing in my ear that Brad Ray has come down at the far side of the circuit, and actually I can see him in the middle, just on the entrance to the S's, having lost the race lead. He's dropped down right out of contention for top spot, so I'm not sure what happened there, because I was focusing on Josh Ingram falling coming off 180. He was straight back up to his feet, and while he got up to his feet, Brad Ray was down at the far side of the circuit. So it's Max Cook now who leads against Richard Holmes-Williams. And Max Cook looks set to not only further extend his leading margin, but also become the favourite to score the outright largest number of points this weekend. Richard Holmes-Williams, though, is having a good go in this race number 2. Finished well adrift of Max Cook in race 1, but in race 2 he's right with him. Max Cook the leader then, a 45.9 on that last lap, a new fastest lap of the race from Richard Holmes-Williams, who's closing in on him. Just 0.2 of a second between them. Will Howarth up to 3rd ahead of Brandon Payne, so Brandon Payne's dropped 2 positions back on that previous lap, down to 5th position at the back of the 3-rider group going over the far side of the circuit now. Will Howarth under some pressure as well in 3rd position, so 3rd, 4th and 5th closely packed together. Brad Ray now recovering, he's down in 10th place, he's about to take 9th from Josh Ingram, who was the other rider who fell on the same lap. So Ingram down to 10th, Brad Ray up to 9th. Next up Felix Hearn, he's going to try and run all the way around the outside of him, can't get there. Hearn holds the inside ground. Ray will try and sweep through now onto the Simpson Straight. Felix Hearn holds the position, Ray goes around the outside but can't make a move there. It's tough to make a move down the Simpson Straight because it's not entirely straight, to be perfectly honest. And Brad Ray now looking down the inside into turn 2, and through he goes, making the move for 8th position. Next up is Craig Walker, 7 seconds up the road in P7. No way that Brad Ray is going to get back to top spot at the half race distance. He is something like 20 seconds behind the race leader Max Cook, who's put a spurt on over the last couple of laps and now leads by 1.5 seconds ahead of Richard Holmes-Williams. Will Howarth has now been relegated to 4th, so that's the other battle I was talking about, 3rd, 4th and 5th. Dane Blackburn it is who gets the better of Will Howarth and Brandon Payne. Still Max Cook then in front. Brad Ray up to 8th position. He's cutting that gap quite dramatically to Craig Walker up ahead of him as Max Cook comes over the line again to set another new fastest lap of the race, a 45.7, 0.7 of a second faster than he went in qualifying. Impressive pace. Brad Ray's running in the 46s, which means he is about 3 seconds a lap faster than Craig Walker, so it should take him probably another lap or so to get onto the tail of Craig Walker, who was 7 seconds up, but is now less than 4 seconds up on Brad Ray, who sits 8th. Cook, Holmes-Williams, Blackburn, Howarth, Brandon Payne setting a new personal best on the previous lap. He's only a second behind Will Howarth, so after being overtaken by Will Howarth, he's kept up with him well. Max Cook coming through lap traffic, he's got to be cautious. He's got a significant advantage over Richard Holmes-Williams, and only getting caught up in lap traffic now could deny him the race victory. It's going to be yet another win for Max Cook after his victory in race 1. Already the championship leader by over 100 points, Max Cook. Well on his way towards the victory in this Pit Bike Open race number 2. Brad Ray now up to 7th position ahead of Craig Walker. I did say it would only be a matter of time. He's running a second a lap faster than Jack Walters up in 6th position, so he may get to 6th place by the end of the race, but I can't see him doing much more than top 6 now. Up ahead of Jack Walters in 6th, Brandon Payne is 5 seconds clear, and he's with Will Howarth on the track, of course. in the squabble for 4th and 5th positions. Brandon Payne just gradually gaining on Will Howarth, but he takes a step forward and then a step back. Slightly slower than Howarth on that previous lap, lap number 10, having gone faster on lap 9. Max Cook 6 seconds up now on Richard Holmes-Williams. The fall for Brad Ray really denying us that fight between the predicted top two. Richard Holmes-Williams looking set for an improved result here after 3rd place in race 1. He will take 2nd in race 2. Dane Blackburn in 3rd. 7 seconds between each of the top 3. And Brandon Payne still a 2nd in arrears of Will Howarth as Brad Ray sets a new personal best on lap 10. He is gaining quite swiftly on Jack Walters here, but I don't think he's going to get to him by the checkered flag now. So that should be Brad Ray 7th position, then Jack Walters 6th, Brandon Payne in 5th. The closest battle still between 4th and 5th positions. The leaders lapped all the way up to 8th now. And Craig Walker and Josh Ingram. Ingram who fell earlier in the race. Brad Ray did the same, of course. Brad Ray's now over at the far side of the circuit. The leaders exiting the infield section. Or I say the leader is Max Cook. Richard Holmes-Williams still working his way around. And the deficit for Richard Holmes-Williams will be much the same as it was in race number 1 behind Max Cook. Brad Ray coming over the line to complete lap number 12. Once again, 3 seconds faster than Jack Walters. But as I explained, it doesn't look as though he's going to have time, really, to get up to a challenging position. We are on the final lap now for the race leader, Max Cook. 8 seconds clear of Richard Holmes-Williams, who was with the lead duo, Max Cook and Brad Ray, before Ray fell, and once Max Cook had clear air, he just disappeared away. The fastest lap of the race as well, 45.7 for him. Brandon Payne with a new personal best on lap 13, closing right back onto the tail of Will Howarth, within a second of one another, but I can't see him being quite close enough to make a challenge for position. Race 1 winner Max Cook makes it 2 out of 2 as he takes the checkered flag in the pit bike open category once again. Directly behind him over the line, Josh Ingram, Felix Hearn and Craig Walker rounding out the top 10. They were a lap down at the checkered flag. Then Richard Holmes-Williams takes 2nd, 8 seconds in arrears of the winner. Dane Blackburn with a good first appearance takes 3rd, and Will Howarth does hold on ahead of Brandon Payne for 4th and 5th positions respectively. Jack Walters will take 6th position, with Brad Ray not too far behind him by the end, after closing down a significant margin and reducing it to just 2 seconds. Max Cook the winner then, ahead of Richard Holmes-Williams, Dane Blackburn in 3rd, Will Howarth in a race-long squabble with Brandon Payne but holds on for 4th position. Jack Walters holding on in the end ahead of Brad Ray, whose fall earlier in the race really changed the complexion of that battle between himself and Max Cook. He managed to work his way back through from outside of the top 10 to 7th, ahead of Josh Ingram, another mid-race faller, Felix Hearn and Craig Walker rounding out the top 10.
Thank you very much, Alex Raby, for calling that brilliant and eventful second pit bike open race. The 3rd pit bike open race is scheduled to get underway at just before 4 o'clock. Perhaps if we're running ahead of schedule, maybe even sooner. We will keep you up to date with timings as much as we possibly can. A big hello to Peter Ansell, who's joined in the fun on Facebook. Hello to Paul Owen as well, and Ibby Watley, who's tuned in live to our visual radio stream. Thank you very much, folks, for all tuning in. Don't forget to give us a share on Facebook. That's always appreciated to help raise the riders' profile and the championship profile as well, and that's always good. So, next out on track, the AC40 Pros, the second race, followed by the Mini F1 sidecars. Riders just on their sighting lap, on their green flag lap. AC40 Pro race number 2. And calling this race brilliantly, it is Alex Raby.
Penultimate race before the end of round number 2 of the races. And it's the AC40 Pro race number 2. Lester's trying to look at my paperwork to work out what we're up to, but he hasn't understood the system, which is that there isn't one, as we move on to race 2 in the AC40 Pro. Front row of the grid will be comprised of Ollie Walker and Casey O'Gorman, who finished 4th and 3rd respectively in race 1. Dylan Mellor and Ryan Hitchcock on row 2. Johnny Garnis, the winner of race 1, quite spectacularly from 5th position, 2nd in the championship standings. He starts on P3. Championship leader Ross Maguire worked his way through from 8th to 2nd first time out. He starts 8th once again. Can he do the same for a second time of asking? Directly ahead of him, 5th first time out, 3rd in the championship standings, it's Eddie O'Shea. So the top 3 in the championship line up on rows 3 and 4 of the grids. Could we see more shake-up in the overall point standings as race 2 gets underway in the AC40 Pros? Fantastic start there from further down the order. Was that Johnny Garnis making his way swiftly through? Certainly looked like he moved through into 3rd position there off the line from 5th. Also moving up, Eddie O'Shea. He's made up certainly 1 position, moving up to 5th, and we've got a fall off the 180 from Casey O'Gorman, who rushes straight to his feet. He's telling everyone to get out of the way because he wants to get back to the bike and start making up positions. That is fantastic spirit. He falls from 2nd position coming off 180, and as all of the riders are coming at him, he's running towards them trying to get to the bike. Absolutely astonishing. Johnny Garnis then is the rider who gains from that. He was challenging down the inside of Casey O'Gorman, who flipped it coming off 180, and Casey O'Gorman has already made up 2 positions here, but I do believe that we have a red flag situation, and that is now confirmed. We are under red flags on the circuit, not confirmed on the timing yet, but a red flag was waved for an incident just before the Simpson Straight, a fall at the top end of the circuit, and immediately with the rider separated from the bike, it was always likely to be red flagged. Well, we wait for official word and updates on that. I suspect that we'll have to go again with a full restart because obviously only 1 lap had been completed. That could be a great opportunity for Casey O'Gorman, who had gone down coming off 180, and well, he was stranded 3 positions from the back of the field, so with a restart he should get his original grid position back and get a second chance. But all of that as well as further information to come as we are under red flag conditions in race 2 in the AC40 Pros.
Thank you very much, Alex Raby, and we will await to see what happens and when in terms of getting this race restarted, if it's going to be a full race restart or what. We will let you know either way. And Alex Raby can give us a little update regarding timings and schedules and races, whether we will get an extra race before lunch. Did you mention earlier about this? I'm
yes.
sure you did.
I've had no further update, so I assume that the case is still the same, that the riders need to be on standby if they're due out in the first of the races in the 3rd block. We have had 3 delays since then, so I'm not sure where we are in terms of timings. It's 20 past 12 now, so we are still theoretically 15 minutes ahead of schedule. I mean, Crispin's alongside us. We'll get further information on that as and when it's possible, but clearly much of it is going to depend on the length of this delay to the AC40 Pros. Not really in a position to confirm anything one way or another, but we were advised that it was possible that the first races of the 3rd round of races, which are scheduled after lunch, may potentially be brought forward because we will run to schedule, i.e. we will run to the timings of the day rather necessarily than to the stipulated order. So yes, it's entirely possible that the first of the round 3 races will be brought forward, but that remains to be confirmed, particularly now obviously that we've had 2 medical delays and a delay for remedial work on 180 as well.
So if anyone is in the paddock and doesn't receive the messages from the very loud speakers that we have here at Red Lodge, then they are more than welcome to tune in to us live online. It's coolfabracing.com. Those who've been listening to me say that all weekend will already be sick of me saying that, but it is live radio coverage all weekend. And presumably, if you have the internet, then you can get the live radio coverage. coolfabracing.com. And also, right now, still on Facebook as well, on the official Cool Fab Racing Facebook page, where we are taking various comments. And lovely to see so many people tuned in from all over the world. It is a truly spectacularly supported championship now, the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship. And yeah, we will certainly read out messages of support for riders and teams and keep them coming in. It's at Cool Fab Racing on Twitter as well, and we've got literally we're starting to take requests now almost for our music that we can play. Well, we can't play exactly everything simply because we're streaming live on Facebook, and Facebook doesn't like it when we play music, hence why we usually play the generic tracks. But during lunch I will break out John Bingham's favourite ABBA tunes, and he will get on the mic. I am assured of that. That's the latest John Bingham disco classics that he informs me, which he wanted to pass on.
Who wanted to hear music anyway when they could hear the sound of your voice, Lester? I just don't understand.
Anyway, I have no comment to make on that. Shall I shut up now? I will. Okay.
The original and best British championships for mini bikes. This is Cool Fab Racing from Red Lodge. Cool Fab Mini Bike Championships, live from Red Lodge. now the official partner series to the BSB. This is Cool Fab Racing.
Live from Red Lodge, it's round 5 of the 2017 Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship. Hello, good afternoon. My name is Lester. We're currently in the middle of a delay, which will get underway once again. A restarted race from the beginning for the AC40 Pro, race number 2. Got a couple of minutes to go before we get restarted on that. It is, incidentally, what Alex Raby pointed out to me a moment ago. Fantastic news for Eddie O'Shea, who had a bit of a tumble during that race, and because we'll be restarting from scratch again, I'm told, then he'll be able to do what he does best, perhaps. So a big hello to Joe Kirsch, who's tuned in right now, and giving a shout out to Jack Kirsch, and to Ferry on Facebook, and Cindy Tanner as well, who are all tuned in right now, saying well done to Josh, number 47, best race I've seen from you yet, good comeback after your little off, says Cindy Tanner. A couple of comments on Facebook coming in, and even more on our Twitter as well, which is at Cool Fab Racing. You should know it by now.
Cool Fab Mini Bike Championships, live from Red Lodge.
Back on track once again here at Red Lodge for round 5 of the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, and it'll be a full race restart after a red flag situation. On pole position for this race is Ollie Walker, Casey O'Gorman alongside him in second place on the grid. And our race commentator Alex Raby will be calling this race once again. As we're about to get underway, riders on the start grid for the start of this race. Start of the second race in the AC40 Pros. As the lights are on.
Second time of asking then for the AC40 Pros. And a second chance really for Casey O'Gorman, who'd fallen and recovered to a couple of positions from the back at the time of the stoppage. He lines up alongside Ollie Walker, second on the grids. He's made a sharper start than Walker, but it's riders further back down the field once again who've made the swiftest getaways. Good start from Dylan Mellor there from third on the grid. O'Gorman managing to hold on to second position as they come out of 180, and this time he's done it cleanly. Now the story of race number one was seeing Ross Maguire and Johnny Garnes move up through the field, having started in 5th and 8th positions. And already it looks as though that may well be the same in race two, as Casey O'Gorman attacks for the race lead and certainly dived down the inside of the right-hander at the far side of the circuit, looking much racier in race two than he was in race one. At the end of lap one then, it's Ollie Walker who is up in a strong position here. Just behind Casey O'Gorman is Johnny Garnes, very swiftly moving through from 5th position. Ross Maguire hasn't had such a good start this time around, up to 7th. We'll see how quickly he can continue to move through the field. Casey O'Gorman not appearing on the timing at all at the moment, on the timing system. As we come to the end of lap two, still close between the two leaders. Ollie Walker ahead of Casey O'Gorman in second position. Third, Johnny Garnes, now a second behind the race leader. Fourth position, Dylan Mellor. And Ryan Hitchcock rounding out the top five, but very close now for positions 4, 5, 6 and 7. Eddie O'Shea at the back of that group, having been passed by Ross Maguire. So Maguire is starting to make his way through the field now. He's come from 8th on the grid, now sits in 6th position. No change in the top two positions. Ollie Walker still in front from Casey O'Gorman in second place. Third is with Johnny Garnes. O'Gorman just looking over his shoulder to check on the progress of Garnes. The winner of race number one is only third in race two. Ross Maguire starting to make progress through the field, has come through for 4th position. Dylan Mellor dropping back 2 places. Ryan Hitchcock coming through at the same time. And Eddie O'Shea still on the back of that group in 7th position as O'Gorman looks for a way through and finds it. I haven't seen anyone make a pass there this weekend. Just forcing his way down the inside of the left-hander before Oak Tree. And Ollie Walker had to move out of the way there because O'Gorman was coming through regardless. We have a new race leader. Johnny Garnes then still in 3rd position with Ryan Hitchcock behind him 4th. Ross Maguire 5th. Dylan Mellor 6th and Eddie O'Shea at the back of that group of 4 riders. He sits 7th. Still close for the race lead, but no change in terms of top spot since that overtaking manoeuvre down the inside on the previous lap. 3rd and 4th positions closing up between Johnny Garnes and Ross Maguire. And 3 riders in that fight still coming around the top end of the circuit. Trying to watch them swap and change. It looks like Eddie O'Shea may have taken a position there. And possibly another one as they come back towards our home straight commentary position. The top 4 as close as they've been all race. Ross Maguire has been coming at that group, having moved his way through from 8th position to sit in 4th. 7/10 of a second separate the top 4. Casey O'Gorman the leader, Ollie Walker 2nd, 3rd Johnny Garnes, Ross Maguire in 4th place. Eddie O'Shea did indeed make that series of overtaking manoeuvres that I was talking about. We had two fallers further down the order while Eddie O'Shea was rattling off passes, getting the better of Ryan Hitchcock and Dylan Mellor. He now sits in 5th at the front of that group of 3 riders. But it's the other group up front that's becoming... Oh, we've got a fall for the race leader. Down goes Casey O'Gorman. He's straight back up to his feet and actually rejoins the race with incredible alacrity. Well, he's had a bit of practice, hasn't he, after the fall in the first staging of this race number 2. He's now gone back to 7th position. And could we see another change of race leader? Ross Maguire is still charging onto the tail of Johnny Garnes. Ollie Walker has held this race lead on and off throughout race 2. Garnes trying to find a way past now. The winner of race 1 is up to 2nd in race 2, and Ross Maguire from 8th to 2nd in race 1 has already come from 8th to 3rd in race 2. And it's Ollie Walker who finished 4th first time out, who is the current race leader. Walker up front, Garnes in 2nd, Maguire in 3rd. Casey O'Gorman has rejoined the back of the 2nd group of riders on the circuit, so 7th position for him. He's chasing 6th place, Dylan Mellor. Walker a 10th of a second up on Johnny Garnes at the end of lap 7 as they come into the final lap now then. Ollie Walker has held on against Casey O'Gorman, battled back when O'Gorman went down. He's held off Johnny Garnes throughout. Garnes in turn has held off Maguire, the separate group being led by Eddie O'Shea ahead of Ryan Hitchcock, Dylan Mellor and Casey O'Gorman. Frustration for O'Gorman, who fell whilst leading, who now sits 7th and gets a bit leery once again coming onto Oak Tree, but he's managed to hold it. Has dropped back from 6th position though. I think that settles things in terms of 6th and 7th. 4th and 5th is particularly close, and so is the race lead. Ollie Walker versus Johnny Garnes. It's going to be a drag race down towards the checkered flag. A backmarker involved as well, and Walker just holds on ahead of Garnes by less than a 10th of a second over the line. Ross Maguire gets 3rd. Eddie O'Shea with a new personal best on the final lap. He was under relentless pressure from Ryan Hitchcock but held on for P4. Hitchcock in 5th, then Dylan Mellor in 6th place ahead of Casey O'Gorman in 7th. Josh Bannister, Mason Foster and Jimmy Parker rounding out the top 10. But what an effort that was from Ollie Walker, who dropped from 1st to 4th in race number 1 but held on against all comers in race 2. Initially getting the better of him was Casey O'Gorman, but a fall coming through the S's dropped him well back through the field. He eventually finishes in 7th place. Ahead of him, Ollie Walker, Johnny Garnes and Ross Maguire, separated by less than half a second at the end of the 8-lap distance. Eddie O'Shea, Ryan Hitchcock and Dylan Mellor finishing directly behind.
Alex Raby, thank you very much for talking us through that brilliant race by all accounts, and I don't know whether it was a technical timing transponder issue. I'm not going to speculate anymore, but yeah, there was a rider missing, and anybody watching on our Facebook live stream will be able to see exactly what the commentator can see, the exact same timing. We have the benefit and of being able to look out of the window, though, as people at the track can also see exactly what's happening, but it might not be exactly clear for people tuning in, listening and viewing at home. So one more race to go. We are coincidentally back on track, back to the normal time given that delay. F1 sidecars, mini F1 sidecars are out next, and that should give us roughly about sort of 10 minutes or so before, so still no official word yet as to whether we are getting the AC40 Rookies' 3rd race before or after lunch. We'll let you know either way. So I'd say be prepared, just in case, and we don't want you to miss out on your 3rd race. So just before the mini F1 sidecars are about to take to the track, we'll just have a quick check on the comments on Facebook and remind you as well of the competition to win 2 tickets to next week's Brands Hatch BSB race, courtesy of Tamar Racing. And to win 2 tickets, all you have to do is take a picture of your classic 2-stroke bike, post it on the Tamar Racing Facebook page. Make sure you tag Tamar Racing, and the winner will be selected at random, I believe, on Thursday, in time for the race. And it will be announced on Facebook, on the Tamar Racing Facebook page. So head over there. And a big hello to Linda Petit, who is tuned in live on Facebook as well. Thank you very much. If this is incidentally your first taste of the Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship, then welcome. This is the official partner series to the BSB. And this is round 5 of 8. So the big question next is, will Brad Ray be on a sidecar? Now I genuinely don't know. The last I heard is that he was taken to the track, but as they leave the pits now, I'm looking for him, and I suppose we'll know. Well, I didn't spot his leathers, so I would guess either he is on there, maybe in someone else's leathers, I don't see why he would be, or he's not in the race. I guess that would be the conclusion from that. Alex Raby can explain more.
Can he? It's got to be at least half a dozen times you've put me on the spot. The problem is, Lester, I don't listen to you, so I don't actually know what you were talking about. Let's line up for the Mini F1 Sidecars race number 2. This is going to be another frantic sprint, isn't it, Lester? Because last time out, they completed a very short, small number of laps in an extremely swift time. If I remember correctly, it was 6 laps last time. It's showing 8 laps this time around, so the race will be slightly longer than it was in the opening block of races yesterday, giving more opportunity for overtaking manoeuvres, which could prove necessary, bearing in mind Paul Qualters missed the start completely in race 1 and ended up getting stuck down the order, scoring only 10 points and dropping to 20 in arrears now of the number 17 outfit piloted by Danny Stainer, which starts ahead in 2nd position. Another poor start from that number 25 outfit ridden by Paul Qualters, dropping straight back down to 5th position. And if in race 1 it was a struggle to get through the field, it could be in race 2 as well. Not the widest of circuits for Mini F1 sidecars, but Mick Williams certainly making it look easy enough, as he has done throughout 2017. The number 26 outfit leads the way, piloted by Mick Williams, unbeaten in 2017 so far. Pursued in 2nd by the number 17 outfit, ridden by Danny Stainer. They are 2nd in the championship standings. The number 144, ridden by Mick Lee, sits in 3rd position. So the top 3 places are as they were in race number 1. The number 200, ridden by, as we've got a fall there further down the order, and if I'm not much mistaken, that is going to be the number 25 outfit. We'll see when they come back around. They are at one of the furthest points for us to try and see from our commentary position, as there's a collision going into Paddock Bend for 2nd and 3rd places, and Danny Stainer's number 17 outfit has dropped to 3rd, and I think this could get a bit feisty for 2nd and 3rd positions. They're going to have to ease off out of this race because the yellow flags are up ahead. Danny Stainer doesn't seem to be paying too much attention to the yellow flags. They come soaring through at full speed up the straight to the far end of the circuit. So I wasn't wrong about the number 25. It was indeed the number 25 piloted by Paul Qualters, 3rd in the championship standings, who are by all accounts out of this race, and with both passenger and rider coming adrift of the machine as they went up the hill, literally next to the oak tree. They are out of this race. And what a disastrous race weekend this is turning out to be for them at round 5. Having scored so well in particularly the opening 2 rounds, they were clear of the number 17 outfit ridden by Danny Stainer. They were 12 points up, in fact, if I remember correctly, at the end of round 2 at Red Lodge here in April. That's all been reversed. They came into this round 10 points down on the number 17 ridden by Danny Stainer. They were 20 points down after race 1, and they're going to be a lot more than that after race 2, because the number 25 has pulled out of the action, leaving the others to continue on at half race distance. The number 26 ridden by Mick Williams leads the way by almost 5 seconds ahead of the number 144, the pugnacious Mick Lee, who fought his way past Danny Stainer down the inside into Paddock Bend to take the 2nd position. Stainer and his outfit have dropped back since then, 2.5 seconds in arrears of the number 144. And the number 200 ridden by Ben Brunt in 4th position. DNF in race number 1, but sitting up in 4th position here. We've got another outfit slowing on approach to Paddock Bend, trickling around. It's none of the lead runners, that's for sure. I think it may be the number 127 ridden by John Hosker, if I'm not much mistaken. They are a lap down and seem to be struggling with something as they came past the pit entry down Paddock Bend, or just before Paddock Bend, I should say. No change positions 2 and 3, which are still the most closely fought on the track. In fact, the number 17 ridden by Danny Stainer is starting to come into this battle, having been overtaken by the 144. Oh, they've gone off the circuit though. On the cut through between Senna and Oak Tree, onto the grass, onto possibly past the grass. It's a sort of sandy surface out there as well underneath the grass. It didn't seem to affect their pace too much for the remainder of that lap, because they are still pretty close to the 144, but we're coming into the last lap now. I say we are, Mick Williams is, everyone else is still trundling well back. Astonishing pace once again from the number 26. A second a lap he's managed to open out. So 7 seconds clear of the 144 ridden by Mick Lee. Danny Stainer closing quickly, but not quickly enough, I don't think, to get there before the checkered flag. He's going to give it a good go. He's made up a lot of ground around the S's. And I tell you what, we could have a potential position change for second here, because the number 17 has closed in a second at a massive rate of knots and comes down Simpson Straight and into Paddock Bend. Can he get feisty down the inside as Mick Lee did to him earlier on? The answer to that is no. And the 144 holds on for second place ahead of the 17. And we have our result in race 2 in the Mini F1 sidecars. Mick Williams victorious yet again, but a bit of a surprise result with the number 144 ridden by Mick Lee coming through for second place at the expense of Danny Stainer. That's some damage limitation, I suppose, for Paul Quarters in the championship standings, with the number 25 ruled out in the early stages following a spin just before Oak Tree. Well, Danny Stainer seems to be struggling in his self as he will work his way back to the pits now. Completion of round 2 of the races, and by my reckoning and by the schedule that we're at, that should be the final race, not only of round number 2, but before our interval break.
Thank you very much, Alex Raby. Yes, have had it confirmed from race control directly that we are now on lunch, and we will spring back into action with the AC40 Rookies' third final race of the afternoon at around 1:45 this afternoon. So let's all go and grab some lunch and go and have a rest, because that was fast and furious, and that was a fantastic morning of racing. Well done, everybody.
The original and best British Championships for mini bikes. This is Cool Fab Racing from Red Lodge. That's right, kids, it's lunchtime and it's time to go get your lunch. Time to go and have a sandwich or a particular snack if you're not too peckish. Maybe have an apple.
Or an orange, indeed, yeah, an orange.
A nice banana isn't too bad either. Or even a nice lemon.
11.
For all the times that you rain on my parade, and all the clubs you get in using my name.